Thanks for joining us, everybody. 8:34 this morning on the Voice of Virginia News Radio WRVA. My name is Rich Herrera. Thank you so much for joining us as we get ready for the 4th of July weekend. Many of us are going to be driving up to Washington, D.C. I know I will be there. I'm going to the Washington Monument for the fireworks show on the 4th of July. And one of the things I really enjoy about living here in Virginia, I've told you that, is all the history. So as I drive back and forth to D.C. quite a bit, I always see this one sign on the side of the road that says National Museum of the Army. Like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. Never stopped there. Never been there until 2 weeks ago. I went up to Mount Vernon, and it's the same exit as you get off to go to Mount Vernon. So I went to Mount Vernon, saw their wonderful collection and the new part of the museum, everything they've renovated for the 4th of July. And I was driving back. I'm like, that Army Museum somewhere around here. I don't know anything about it. And I've asked people about it. They go, I've never been. I've never stopped before. So I pull up, and it is stunning. I walk in, and it blows me away. I look around like, whoa, how in the world have I missed this? So if you're looking for a way to really understand our nation's history, look no further than a couple of the museums that we have right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. People see the Marine Corps, the National Museum of the Marine Corps as you drive by on your way to D.C., but this one I think is one that is worth a stop, and that's the National Museum of the U.S. Army. Paul Miranda is joining us right now. He's the director of the museum, and Paul, I'm just going to say shame on me for never stopping there before, but boy, am I glad I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did as well. We tell the Army's story from 1775 to present day. We do that through artifacts and interactive experiences and educational programs. We are free to the public, free parking, and our air conditioning works very, very well. So it's going to be hot this weekend. So I encourage folks to come inside.
What blew me away was I've been to a lot of museums. I love going to museums. I'm a history nerd. So I've been to, let's say, the World War II Museum. I spent 2 days in New Orleans at that museum. I've been to Quantico many, many times. I just love going to museums. The dioramas you have are as good as it gets in museums, but some of the technology that you had, I looked and I grabbed the tablet and took the virtual tour, and I thought that was rather amazing. I sat in the theater, and I'll be honest, it was very Disney-esque with the seats that shake, and it was a complete 365 degree. It seemed like experience watching the movie that you have as part of the museum. It's remarkable, the technology that you have there.
Yeah, we try to balance it to give different audiences an experience, so they get more engaged in what they're learning about, right? So if you have with the new WRVA experience we opened in April, we have these tablets where you kind of are transported back to 1776 to see the experience what it was like back then. And then, like you said, mentioned in the theater, right? That's kind of engaging experience to get people interested in the history of the United States Army. And we don't overdo it. We want the artifacts, we want the personal stories to shine through. But we use technology, and I think in a very clever way, to get just people engaged into the storyline.
So when you meet somebody for the very first time that comes to the museum, I imagine there's school kids that'll go on a field trip. There's adults like me that love history. But then I know, and I saw, and I thanked a lot of veterans that were there for their service. When you have a veteran that comes in, especially for a weekend like this, 4th of July, Independence Day, and they're looking a way to connect to the history of this country, what is their experience like? What do you hear from them when you actually have someone who wore our nation's cloth?
Yeah, it's great to talk to veterans, especially when you see them with their families, right? They're pointing out maybe the uniforms they wore, the weapons that they carried, even the tanks that they were in. And you get that sort of firsthand experience only from them, but also they're also sharing their experience with their family and friends. And it's such a great, thing to see, to be a part of. It adds so much to the experience, not only the visitors around them, but for the staff as well.
Oh, we're talking about the museum that I think, again, I hope that's not an insult. Paul Miranda is joining us, the director of the National U.S. Army Museum, which is right here in Virginia on our way to D.C. Because, again, I've asked a lot of people like, yeah, I've seen the sign. They've never stopped there before. shame on all of us because it's remarkable. What's the response you get when people like me walk in for the first time?
It's overwhelming. That it's usually so unexpected and so much more than they anticipated. So once we get folks in the door, it's just a fantastic experience for them. It's always glowing and positive reviews, especially the new exhibits that we do and the new programs that we develop. Just last year, we opened a major landmark exhibit on the Revolutionary War, because last year was the 250th anniversary of the birth of the United States Army. And then this year, of course, the birth of our nation. So this exhibit that we opened, 285 artifacts, some never been on display before, from George Washington objects to items from France, Canada, and England. It brings people to this museum because they want to learn more about that history. And once they're in the museum, it's just an amazing experience.
Now, there is a direct tie to here in Central Virginia, Richmond, because the second you walk in to that Revolutionary War exhibit, again, with things that have never been seen before and artifacts that will blow you away, there is a direct tie to Richmond, Virginia, with two of the I don't even know what to call them. As part of the exhibit, there's two people depicted, I guess is the best way to describe it, that have direct ties to Richmond because they came here to Richmond to settle after we won our independence from England.
That's right. So those realistic cast figures you're talking about, Anna Maria Lane and John Lane, husband and wife, who essentially fought together during the Revolutionary War. Typically, women followed, like camp followers, but Anna Maria actually dressed as a soldier and got on the battlefield. And one of the very few women to actually be given a pension for her service in the war. And like you said, yes, they did settle in Richmond after the war. So these cast figures, they kind of come to life.
Yeah.
It's a great way to show, what they would have looked like, what they would have worn, what the weapons or things what they've carried. And it's been very, very effective with our visitors.
Paul, there's always something that I find when I go to a new museum, a story I didn't know. Is there a great secret that you have in your museum that people find out once they come in there? Is there an Easter egg? Is there something that people walk out like, I did not know that?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize how involved the Army has been in society, right? Some of the medical innovations that we take for granted for today actually developed in the Army, or sort of transportation and technology. The Army was interested in the Wright Flyer, the Wright brothers, and in fact, the Army was the first institution to purchase a Wright Flyer from them.
Wow.
And so because the Army was interested in what aviation could do, right? From maybe moving supplies, moving people, of course, engaging in combat. So I think that's something that a lot of people probably didn't know of, and when they come to the museum and see a replica of the Wright Flyer, they're always amazed by it.
I'm going to tell everybody here in Richmond, Central Virginia, wherever you are, and this is a big radio station. We go throughout Central Virginia. I'm telling you, we are so fortunate that if you just look in the area where the National Museum of the Army is, I've got that. I've got Mount Vernon, which is a wonderful museum. I've got Quantico, the National Museum of the Marine Corps. I mean, if you love U.S. history, you've got General Washington's house. You've got a museum that not only will tell you the story of Ike and Patton, but it'll tell you the story of every GI and what they went through from the Revolutionary War on to today. I could do the same down at Quantico in the Marine Corps Museum. We are so blessed to have all of this. And then, I guess you have to be on your A game because the Smithsonian's a rock throw away from you.
That's right. Yeah. So we have to, make sure our exhibits are, on par with the Smithsonian, and we are at that level. I think even beyond that.
Yeah.
So you're right. There's always something to do in this area, and we hope folks come to the museum.
I'm telling you, if you're looking for a place to spend time this weekend, again, the air conditioning works. I know that for a fact because it was brutally hot in Mount Vernon when I was there. And then I walked in, I'm like, hey, maybe I'll stay an extra 10 minutes because the air conditioner was really good inside the National Museum of the Army. But I tell you what, from the food service they have in there, the gift shop, and then all the exhibits and the technology they have is as good as it gets. The artifacts that you see, the history of the U.S. Army, our society, it is something that I think people during our semi-quincentennial should stop by. Paul, I'd love to become a friend of the museum. I'd love to be able to help tell the stories and remind people it's a free museum. If you're looking for something to do this summer with your kids, if you're a history buff or you're a veteran, it is a very, very special place. And I just thank you for opening the doors, allowing me to walk in and get just a small glimpse of it. But my son's home from college. We plan on spending an entire day at your museum, and we probably won't have enough time to see everything that we want to see.
Well, Rich, I appreciate the connection, and thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate that, and hopefully your viewers or your audience get excited about this museum and come visit us.
No, absolutely. I'm going to tell everybody that I can. I will stand there and say just how lucky we are to have all of this history, living history, with us right here in Virginia, and need to take advantage of it. Paul, thank you very much. Let me, on behalf of all of us here at WRVA, to everyone at your museum and all of our veterans who served at War of Nations class, I want to wish you the very best 4th of July, Independence Day, and thank all of them for their service.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll continue with you. It's News Radio WRVA. Appreciate everybody for joining us this morning here on The Voice of Virginia. We'll continue. It's News Radio WRVA.
It's the news I need.
I can check in throughout the day.
I can just have it on all day.
Download the Odyssey app and listen anywhere with News Radio WRVA.
Business owners, did you know that 93% of you overpay the IRS every year? This is Steve Burton, president